Football is back, and I got to watch 20 minutes of practice last Saturday. And I'm going to give you my main 3 takeaways from that day, starting with the wide receivers. Welcome back to Wizard Wednesday. I'm your host, Zach. Take everything I'm about to say with a huge grain of salt. Like I said, I only saw about 20 minutes of practice. Within that 20 minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes of actual team drills or 11 on 11. So very limited in what I saw, but we did get to talk to the coaches, a few of the coaches after. And so some of what I'm going to talk about was gleaned from putting together what we saw on the practice field and then what the coaches said about the team going forward this year after practice. I'm an offense guy. I love offense. I pretend to know probably a little bit more than I actually do, but I do know a little bit about offense, specifically the Texas State offense and what we run. And I'm usually decent at figuring out what they're trying to do and the moves they may make before the season, specifically quarterback, wide receiver, those type of things. So let's get started with something that surprised me. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely not something I expected before going to this practice. And that's Bo Sparks is going to move outside opposite Chris Don Jr. Again, it's early. That's just a plan for today. It could change by the time they suit up. But as of right now, from what we saw and then what offensive coordinator Landon Keppel told us after practice, Bo is going to be outside, I believe, at the X, and Chris Don is going to be on the right side of the formation at the Z. So last year, most of the X position was played by Cole Wilson, who's now on to Baylor. Chris Don did sub in at, I believe, the Y and the Z last year. When Bo played last year, oftentimes it was in relief of Joey, who played out of the slot, which was the Y position. And here's why that surprises me. Neither Chris Don Jr. or Bo Sparks has the prototypical outside receiver size. On paper, they're both slot guys, right? Fast, shifty, under 6 foot. That doesn't mean that they can't play outside. It's just, if you're going to draw it up, like prototypical outside guys are usually a little taller, usually a little bigger, more possession type guys, where the shifty, smaller guys are often put in the slot. Now, the last 2 years under G.J. Kinney, all 3 positions, wide receiver positions, have been slot type receivers. Outside, inside, all over the place. Ashton Hawkins, slot type guy. Cole Wilson, slot type guy. And then obviously Joey Hobart actually playing the slot. So while it's not something new, it is a little bit unexpected, specifically because Joey's gone. Joey's gone to, he's graduated, he's trying to get into the NFL right now. And there was a ton of production, obviously, from the slot with Joey there. Looking at last season, especially with some of Joey's injuries that held him out, most of the time that was Bo that was stepping up into that position. And to be honest with you, I kind of penciled him in at the slot. I thought that was decided and that we were looking for a new X receiver to replace Cole, but it seems like, no, we're looking for a slot. So right now, according to what we saw and what was said to us after practice, it looks like that battle is coming down between Maven Anderson and Mims. And so I have faith in both of those guys. It's just that the slot spot, it's huge with the type of offense that we run. And so that's going to be my second big takeaway from this. It kind of, first big takeaway is we have a couple outside receivers who are not prototypical, and we're looking for a slot receiver. The second big takeaway is that the vertical choice offense is not going away. Mac Leftwich brought that in I'd say he brought that in. G.J. Kinney, I think, had some experience with it as well, but that was kind of a staple of the Mac Leftwich offense. And I was wondering if we're going to move closer to the more typical Gus Malzahn style offense and away from the vertical choice stuff that, Baylor ran back in the day. But no, I mean, in his press conference, Landon Kepp will let us know. Like, vertical choice is here to stay. It's not something that he ran when he was an offensive coordinator back in the day, but it's something that he's had a lot of experience with the past few years under GJ, and it's here. And so if you don't know what vertical choice is, it's essentially ISO ball. If you think about basketball, it's more of an ISO play rather than an actual specific one route, one decision, or not even a decision, one route for the wide receiver. So vertical choice, it can be ran from any position. So the X, the outside choice, it can be ran from the slot, which is what happened a lot last year. We ran a lot of slot choice. Difficult to defend with Joey Hobart because he made the right decision. It can also be ran, and we did this a lot last year too, it's like a switch. So you have a slot, you have they'll switch, and then Joey would run outside choice, kind of acting as an outside receiver, but starting from the slot. So what my non-football playing brain, my understanding of vertical choice is that the wide receiver runs about a 5-10 yard stem and then either breaks inside, flattens out the route if the coverage is very close to him. I'm sorry, not if it's very close to him. If it's staying over top of him, he will cut underneath that coverage. If the coverage is close to him at that 5-10 yard spot, if he can reach out and touch the defender, he has the okay to stem up, basically run a go ball, run it deep. And then there are some different intricacies based on what type of leverage. If the cornerback has outside leverage, he can break it in, skinny post, that type of deal, right? So I say that kind of very quick, not great explanation of vertical choice. I explain that because the slot position is really important because it has to be on the same page as the quarterback. You can imagine if the quarterback is seeing tight coverage, expecting the slot to try to run past the cornerback or whoever's guarding him or covering him. And if the slot breaks in, the quarterback throws it as if it's a go ball. It's an easy recipe for an interception. So it's really important that those two are on the same page. It was nice, I think, last year having someone who was really, really good in Joey Hobart at making those decisions, having really high football IQ and being shifty. Not to say that I don't think that any of these guys can't step up and do that. Obviously, Joey came in first year and absolutely crushed it. I just mean that it's something you want probably to have decided sooner rather than later. It kind of goes hand in hand with that quarterback position. I think you want your receivers to be people that you can trust or players that you can trust to run this concept so that you can install it day one and start. And it's not necessarily a difficult concept, I think, to run. You just have to have a lot of reps. It's making sure that the quarterback and the wide receiver are on the same page. I thought it would be Bo because, he'd have that leg up, but it's not Bo, and that's okay. It's not Bo right now. That's to say, it's very early in camp. It could end up being Bo. But right now, it seems like the plan is to see what Bo can do on the outside. And that's not to say that they don't also run outside choice. It's not, they don't only run slot choice. They also run outside choice. So it's important to have good chemistry between the quarterback and the wide receiver, which is why we want to make sure that that slot position is someone with a high football IQ, but also shifty enough to, when you are making that move, because usually on the choice routes, I don't believe that we are coming at the ball quickly. You're kind of like slow. I wouldn't say slowly, but you're not going full out off the ball because you want the wide receiver to have time to make the right decision and see what the defense does, because you're reacting based off of what that starred defender is doing. So that's important. But you also have to have a quarterback that's on the same page as the wide receivers. So what's going on with the quarterback position? I'll tell you, from last Saturday, and Kev, I believe he's going to do an episode on Friday, so he's going to have updates for you from Wednesday, from tomorrow. I'm recording this Tuesday. Things could change. everything that I'm saying here could throw out the window. Forget it. It's not, that's the nature of fall camp. But I'm just telling you what we saw Saturday and what I've seen so far. And what we've seen so far is that Brad is the guy until he's not the guy. There's a pretty good chance that game one, your starting quarterback is Brad Jackson. I don't think that's a shock to many people. That being said, I fully expect to see more than one quarterback out there. The second quarterback out from what we saw was Holden Geriner, the Auburn transfer. He's big. He's got a pretty decent arm. He can move a little bit. And I think for right now, the QB2 position is a battle between him and maybe the SMU transfer, Keldrick Luster. But from what we saw on Saturday, it was Holden. So there are big differences in these two quarterbacks. Brad is a shifty dude. He's fast. I can see Brad breaking off 30, 40, 50-yard runs, depending on the situation. He adds a dynamic in the run game, especially with our wide splits. So like wide splits, idea is to move your wide receivers way away from the offensive line in order to make the defense make more difficult decisions, right? You have to move all of your DBs outside to defend them, and now you're having to declare or put people inside or outside the box, and you have less people to run defend, essentially. Again, not totally a football guy, just my understanding of why you would do wide splits. It changes the landscape of how much grass there is in front of receivers. Anyways, point being is this offense is a numbers game. Lots of times the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage, counts the people in the box, checks out of a run or checks to a run, depending on who has the advantage in the numbers game. They have 5 in the box. I have 5 folks that can, 5 offensive linemen, maybe, 6 with a tight end in. Yeah, I have the numbers game. I'm 1 up. We're going to run the ball here. We'll run it inside zone. They have 7 in the box, which means they have less defenders on the outside to defend the pass. I'm going to check to a pass here. So it is a numbers game. Having a quarterback that is legitimate run threat changes the numbers, right? So everyone who's played college football 25, 26 understands leaving a player on the edge. Usually it's an edge pass rusher unblocked and reading him on a read option. If he crashes in, quarterback keeps the ball, runs for a good gain. If he stays outside, plays the quarterback, you have the numbers inside to go ahead and hand it off to the running back. So having a legitimate run threat at the quarterback position does change the numbers games, does honestly make the pass game a little bit easier because the defense has to account for that. That being said, you also need to, with those wide splits, have enough arm strength to get the ball out past the numbers. I think Brad has that. I think Brad can spin it. He's not going to be a TJ Finley type guy, but I think that he has just as much arm strength as Jordan McLeod did. So that'll work in this offense. He has enough there. He's been in the offense for 2 years now, pretty much. He should be able to process and make those right decisions. And so he has an incredible leg up on all these other guys. I would be surprised if he's not the first guy out there. If he really tears it up that first game, we might not even be talking about any of these other quarterbacks this year. That being said, there's a lot of talent behind him. I think Holden is very talented. He has a stronger arm than Brad. He makes good decisions from what I saw. Again, 20 minutes. But from what I saw, he makes good decisions and he can run a little bit. I think he's probably a bigger run threat than TJ Finley, maybe along the Jordan, maybe even more than Jordan McLeod. Like he can move. He's kind of moves more like a bruiser, right? He's stocky, he's big, but I do think you can still run some RPO read option type stuff with Holden. The kind of third quarterback in this mix, I think that's pushing for that second position right now, is Keldrick Luster, who is kind of he's a smaller guy. It's shorter. He's not small. He's built like a tank, but he's definitely shorter than both Brad and Holden. Holden's about, I think, 6'2". Brad is just at 6 foot. Keldrick is somewhere around, I think, 5'10", maybe 5'11", but he's stocky and he can sling it and he can run. So you kind of have a little bit of the best of both worlds in Keldrick. He just has to catch up. He came over the summer. He didn't have spring practice in this offense. This offense is similar to the SMU offense. They do run vertical choice at SMU. So he has some experience in this offense. It's not like it's night and day. That being said, I think that he and Holden are really battling for QB2 right now. I don't know if the battle per se is at the QB1 position. That can change. We're very early in fall camp. It can change before the first game. It can certainly change in season. I don't think this is a situation like we've had the last 2 years where you have a guy who is going to get the majority of the reps in season unless something goes terribly wrong. I think this is a situation where the competition may continue in season, especially if Brad doesn't have his best game. There is a potential that we could see one of these other guys come in because the talent gap I don't think is that big between these guys. I think Brad has the advantage, but I don't think you can look on paper and circle Brad and say like, absolutely, this is the dude no matter what, because there's so much talent in that room and so many different looks in that room. And so I think even in the season, Brad is going to have to earn it. Or whoever it is. Maybe it's not Brad. Maybe it's Holden. Holden's going to have to earn it in season 2. I believe Brad is going to be on a short of a leash, or whoever is the quarterback will be on a short leash the first quarter of the season or so. But hopefully by mid-season, someone has emerged and we won't have a quarterback battle going into the second half of the season, which is usually not a good sign for your season. But that's it. That's what I've seen. That's, almost 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how long this will be, but it's a long time to talk about 20 minutes of practice. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. Please be sure to like and subscribe to Win Now or Get Bent. Follow us on all the socials, and we'll see you next time.